Okay, I'm putting together a shoot here, my last one from Photobomb. Hi, I'm Julian. My last arrangement with the flowers I have left. So, I've got my camera set up. I've got the 50mm f1.8 on a full frame 5D classic. Let's see, f-stop for this is going to be around 2.2. Okay, so I'm at f2.2. Better do the math here. Okay, f2.2, ISO 640, and the shutter speed is going to depend on my ambient light. But usually it's between 1/30th and 1/25th. Speaking of light, here's what I think most of you want to know about. Here is one of my flashes, a Canon 580 EX2 with a plastic butter tube on it that has been surrounded by black tape to keep the light from bleeding out. So that's one of the snoots I use. Another snoot that is very handy is a toilet paper tube roll or a paper towel tube roll. When I shoot hummingbirds, I use a paper towel tube roll placed on the front of the flash, taped bottom and top and then around, and then I tape off all the excess so there's no bleeding of light. Let's see. Another light that I use for the flowers, these are the two that I've been using. Let me get it where you can see it. Is this another 580 EX2? And basically, to make the idea of an omni-bounce, a Stoffen omni-bounce, you take a pair or so of paper towels, place it over the head of the flash, take a rubber band, or I prefer a scrunchie because they don't bind up as quickly. Take a scrunchie, place it over the paper towel and push it all the way back, making sure, well, there you go, making sure the paper towel doesn't fall out. And once you've done that, just push it forward about an inch. And there's your omni-bounce. You've got a good inch there of free space where the light's just going to hit and expand. Okay, there's one other flash that I'm using right now, and that is for the backdrop. It is, oh gosh, it is a Canon 580 EX2. And as you can see, I've got a flyer that was sent to me in the mail. Maybe you can't see. Do this. Okay. This is an old mic stand I use, by the way, because it has a boom on it, which I find helpful. Anyway, on this flash, if you look, you'll see there's a gel holder with a 3200 Kelvin gel in it. That gives like a golden sepia color to the background. What you see is dark gray. It's a 10 by 24 foot muslin. And then this here is just a card that I modified. It was sent to me in the mail by, I'm not even sure who. But they were gracious enough to let me keep it. And so what I do is take a rubber band, put it on the card, like so. This gives you that. And then you place the rubber band around the flash head. And what this does too is it allows you to rotate the card around the flash head as you need to. And this is used to block light that's hitting the backdrop from coming forward and hitting me, because I'll be probably 2 or 3 feet from the backdrop, which is only 2 or 3 feet from the flowers. Okay. Now, for this, I'm going to set the light to hit. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a sandbag somewhere. I'm going to have the light hit. Looking at this, I'm going to have it hit from the upper right of the camera, right to the lower left, which means I've got to set this up off camera. Switch this makeshift barn door around to the other side. Again, it blocks the light from hitting me, because I'm going to be lit by the only ambient light that's on in here right now. But the problem with this is my camera's hitting high up on this backdrop. So I'm going to have room, or much room, for the flash. But so far so good. Depending on how you aim it at the backdrop, I'm sure you understand, will depend on the shape of the light that you get. So again, upper camera right to lower camera left. That's for the backdrop. Now for the flowers, whenever possible, I try to bounce my flash. The problem with bouncing is there's too much spill most of the time. Also with these anthurium, they're extremely reflective. So lighting placement becomes very important. Thankfully, digital lets you look. Chimp, as they say. Okay. Now I do all my flashes on manual. Since I can chimp, I can just pop the flash or pop a shot and check out the effect of the flash. With these anthurium, the first thing I'm going to try is my little homemade omni bounce. And so, because it's a sort of omni bounce, it is going to spread the light out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to aim it kind of back toward the camera. Fortunately, this 50 doesn't flare very badly or easily. And feather. I think that's the term they use when you use the edge of the rim of light that you're putting on. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is fire off a test shot and make sure everything is going here with the camera. And when I do fire off this test shot, I'm going to end up checking sharpness if I remember to do it. So I have no idea what I'm doing in the photo today. But here we go. Looks like that went off. Now I'm shooting at ISO 640. I think you can see the result a little bit. And I have to say I like it. So the first shot looks good. The one thing I haven't done that I usually do is block the light hitting the flowers, block the ambient light. So I'm putting a box or two in front of the ambient light, between it and the flowers, making sure that it only blocks the flowers and not me. Because again, ambient light is what's lighting me. And we're going to try that shot again. I get the feeling I'm going to need more power on the main flash. Yes. Not only that, I'm going to have to switch sides because the red, in theory, and the dark one on the bottom is not getting hit. And because I need more power, instead of turning the power up, I'm just not turning the light away as far. Now let's try it. And this is basically an omni bounce that I'm using, a homemade version. Picture is good. Overall, it's dark. I don't generally worry about that. The lighting looks great. But since the overall photo is dark, I can raise it a third of a stop and I think I'm good. But the ratio is right. Now the back wall, got the flash set on 1/64th power, 24 millimeters zoom on the flash head. On the flower flash, power is less of an important indicator. Okay, good. But right now it's at 1/128th. The flash head is at 20 millimeters. This happens to be a 600 EXRT. I misidentified it before as a 580, but it's a 600. And again, it's at 1/128th, and I've got it just not quite parallel to the flowers, angled back toward the camera more. I'm going to go almost parallel. That basically increases the power without having to turn up the power. And that got it. Okay. I've got the lights set up. To review, we've got a 600 EXRT on the left of the flowers, set at 1/128th power with the head zoom to 20 millimeters, a homemade Stoffen OmniMounts type diffuser on it, and that is aimed effectively parallel to the flowers, or perpendicular to the flowers. Now, the rear flash, the background flash, again is gelled with a 3200 Kelvin gel, has a homemade barn door on it, held with a rubber band, is set to 1/64th power, and is aimed at the back at an angle. And if you look at the picture, you'll see when I post it on the video, it gives you a nice little circle with some diffusion. And that's pretty much it. Now the only thing I've got to adjust for is the ambient light. And there's this great principle about shutter speed where flashes and shutter speed, well, flashes don't care about shutter speed. Right now I'm at 1/40th of a second, and it's a little dark for my tastes. So I'm going down to 1/25th of a second. That will let in more ambient light, and it won't let in any more of the flash than it already did. Now, what it's giving is a yellow cast to me and a more bluish cast to the flowers, which is what I want. When I'm done processing the picture, and I'm going to include screenshots from the raw conversions, because that's really all I do is convert from raw. Again, I'll show the screenshots, and you'll see the difference between the background and the foreground, and how basically I adjust the white balance Kelvin temperature-wise for kind of in between, but basically the flowers have to be right. I can always desaturate the skin if it's too orange. I check for sharpness, which is good. It covers most of the arrangement, and also the camera is angled downward. That's both for framing purposes, but it also is to help capture more of the arrangement, which is angled back. Because I'm not quite getting the diffused background that I want. So I'm going to take a chance. I'll take the camera down to 2. The other option is to take a closer shot of the arrangement, which will blur out the background even more. I'm going down to 1.8. And I'm going to adjust the ISO to make up for it. So the ISO went from 800 to 500. The aperture from 2.2 to 1.8. So 2/3 of a stop each way. And the great thing is shutter speed, which is 1/25th right now, nothing's changed. It doesn't matter. One of the things I use for self-portraits a lot is a fan. A decent fan to get some air going, to get some movement, some motion, and some lines in the image. As for lighting, all I can say is don't be afraid to experiment. Use any object that you think will work. Spill is your enemy. Always try to keep spill to a minimum, and you will be much happier. Here is the image that was taken. the original image brought up in Adobe Camera Raw. You can see the settings, and here are the settings that I applied. This is the general setting board here. I dropped the temperature from 5300 to 4500. Here is the sharpening, standard sharpening, a very low pass of noise reduction. In the FX section I added vignetting, which I often do. And then the next screen is just to show I work in camera neutral and work from there. And the last one is to show I did eventually get to the saturation and luminance and drop them both on the skin. And here is the final image. Thank you for watching. I'm Julian Grey.